Welcome to the Programming Electronics Academy podcast. Join us every other week as we explore how everyday people are creating extraordinary things in the world. Find us online at programmingelectronics.com.
Hello, I hope you're doing fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me this week on the Programming Electronics Academy podcast. You know, I feel like I live a charmed life. I get to have these conversations with really interesting people on a regular basis. It really kind of charges me up. And I hope that this show today does the same for you. I get to talk to Dante Roumega. He's from Cape Town, South Africa, and he's a young man, and he actually built this really interesting project with Arduino. It's a lie detector. It's really not overly complicated, which to me makes it nice because it's very approachable. And it's just a neat project to kind of work with, and all you really need is an Arduino and some wires. So in the show, I talked to Dante just kind of a little bit about his background, what got him into it, and then of course we talk about his lie detector and some of the other interesting stuff he's up to. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this episode. Well, hello Dante, thank you so much for joining us as a guest today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for having me.
So, we found you by the project you had done with the Arduino Lie Detector. It was really kind of a neat project, and I want to talk about it a little bit. But really, I'd like to learn a little bit more about you and kind of what got you into building things with Arduino and just in with electronics and that type of stuff.
Okay, well, I got to say it all started for me back in grade 8. Well, I'm in grade 12 now, final year. When I was in grade 8, I saw these kids who had made this drone. I think they were in their first year of university, and it was this drone. And they had it on their phone and they were flying it around. And I thought, that's really cool. I want to make one of those. So I went to the kids there, and it was at this our local university, at UCT. And the kids there said, yeah, we made it with off-the-shelf parts. So I'm like, what? How did you make it? They're like, yeah, we just went to the shop and bought certain parts and put them together and it just worked. And I was like, oh, so it's like Lego. And when I was young, I really loved Lego, right? So I was like, oh, you could just put it together like Lego. So I thought, that's pretty cool. So I went and started looking into that kind of stuff, and it really intrigued me.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how something like that, an experience like that, can kind of catalyze in interest in things for sure. So how long? So have you been doing it since the 8th grade? Then have you been kind of messing around with electronics and such?
Well, yes and no. I mean, since the 8th grade and maybe a bit younger, that I've been getting old laptops from family members who didn't want them anymore, or old technology and just taking it apart because you're kind of like, how does this work? So I would take stuff apart and pretty much destroy whatever I got my hands on and do nothing with it. And then in the 8th grade, when I learned about these parts you could buy that you could actually build stuff with, I started going and trying to find them, like the Arduino and the Raspberry Pi, and seeing what I could do with that. So yeah, I guess it all kind of started in the 8th grade when I learned you could actually make stuff with it. But since before then, I had been taking stuff apart and trying to figure out what was going on.
So would you say you're mostly self-taught, or do you get any type of formal education at school also along these lines with electrical engineering type stuff? Or?
Our school doesn't offer stuff like that, but there is this one teacher. Well, there's actually quite a few teachers. We've got a teacher called Tom Nowak, who's an American teacher. He's a really nice guy. He also, he had an interest in this kind of stuff, so we would talk about it. He wasn't the best at it, but he would still know a bit more than me, and he would teach me. Another teacher, Mike Team, a teacher from my school, who does this kind of as a hobby, So it's not like it's a formal thing that we learned in our school, but there are still many makers in South Africa who you can just go chat to. But for the most part, to answer your question, it's mostly off YouTube and YouTubers like Ben Heck and Great Scott, those kind of guys who make projects like this and make them interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are two great channels. It's a great resources. Yeah, YouTube's awesome. So
definitely.
So let's start talking about this Arduino Lie Detector. And you, we talked about it before the show, but you've started a YouTube channel and you're kind of doing some instructables and stuff. And you have a really nice video on putting together a Arduino Lie Detector. And it's pretty cool. Plenty of people I know are just lying to me all the time. So I want to nail them. But so I'm just curious, why a Arduino Lie Detector? Just any particular reason, or somebody, steal money from you? What do you think?
So I've been asked this before, actually, weirdly enough. And the most common question is did someone lie to you and do you want to figure it out? And I was like, no one lied to me. It was kind of a situation where I had pretty much just started off with Arduino and like just started to get serious with it and make my own code. So this was back when I only had an Arduino Uno and like an Arduino Nano and like the basic boards. I didn't have any sensors, I didn't have that kind of stuff. So I would go on like Instructables or Hackaday or any of like the tutorial websites, and I would like look for projects that I could like try out and see how to do. But the problem was most of them had like, you got to have an ultrasonic sensor. You got to have, a light sensor. All these projects have sensors. They do something. So I kept looking for a project where I could just use the Arduino by itself and have it do that. And I know there are quite a few. You could like use the serial monitor and stuff like that. But I wanted to do something like interesting with it. So I remember I saw a video by College Humor, I think it was, which is a comedy channel on YouTube. And it was a segment where this guy was talking about lie detectors and how they don't do anything and they're completely fake. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And he spoke about how lie detectors just measure, the galvanic skin response, which is basically when you sweat when you lie, right? So I thought, okay, that's interesting. What if I did something with Arduino with this? So I started doing some research, and like someone had done it before, but like he had some, sensors on his skin and stuff like that. So I thought if I just take some wire, which can be my sensor, I could plug it into my Arduino and just see if I can get a different response. So I did that and it worked. And I was like, okay, cool. So then I decided, I'm going to make this into a project and see if I can, teach someone else about it.
Oh, that's awesome. So what were the results? How did it come along? I mean, did it appear to work? Did you know if it would kind of work or not? Could you measure a difference with the Arduino?
Well, when I started it, obviously I got the idea from watching a video about how lie detectors don't actually work. So my expectations were pretty low from the beginning. But I plugged it. I wired it to my skin and like wrapped myself in the tinfoil, and I plugged it in and I sat there and I watched like the graph go up and down, up and down, and up and down. Then I would like try and worry myself and make myself sweat a little bit. And when I did, I saw kind of jump a bit. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. So you're definitely getting things back. It's not just reading random values. It's definitely responding to my skin. The really interesting thing was when I took it out for testing. I'm part of this local group called Arduino Cape Town, who's run by this amazing woman named Robin. And she invited me to come talk to these kids about programming. So we went to this really cool venue, and these kids who hadn't had like a big background in programming and wanted to learn about it came to look around. So I was at my little desk and I had my little Arduino there, my laptop, and it would show the graph. And these kids would come and they would like wire it to their skin, and then I would go like, okay, well, you got to ask a question and make them sweat if you want to see a result. So they would ask like, have you ever cheated on your boyfriend? And then the girl would start crying. And I sat there like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then it jumped, and I was like, oh, it works. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Oh, that is great.
So then these kids were having like a big laugh with it, and they would like ask these really serious questions, and I felt terrible. I mean, they're asking these like really serious questions, and these girls would like start freaking out like, oh God, is it actually? I was like, wait, it's not 100% correct. Don't judge anyone. So it's definitely not a super accurate lie detector. You're not going to use it to like actually to see if someone's stealing money from you or something. But it's like a fun project you can use to get the basics of Arduino, see what's going on, see how the Arduino interprets different data and that kind of stuff.
That's so cool. So you were looking for a project that you could use with just the Arduino, no other components. Because like you get an Arduino, you want to do something with it. Blinking the LED is only so much, but hey, what can I do with just some wires? And
exactly.
Okay, that's cool. That is so neat.
I mean, like there's some amazing projects, even projects that I love doing. But sometimes getting a ultrasonic sensor, getting a light sensor, getting all these different sensors can be a mission, especially in South Africa, because we have these crazy import fees on foreign products. So like getting these components to South Africa was often a mission. And like when I used it for projects, I'd be like, oh, I don't want to keep it in there and like pull it out. So I wanted to make something that I wouldn't feel too bad about just making and leaving. So that's why I made the lie detector.
That is so cool. So was it hard to build, like as you went through it, were there any challenges when you were putting it together, coding or hardware or otherwise?
I remember the one challenge was, so basically in my wiring diagram, I would connect ground to a resistor and then to 5 volts so I could get that reading from my skin. And I think I messed it up or I don't know what I did, but I remember I turned it on and the LED flashed for half a second and then it just turned off. And then it wouldn't turn back on, and I started freaking out. Like, I've broken the one Arduino. Oh gosh, what have I done? Like, I need to get like a new Arduino, and like my project has failed. So I spent like a good 2 hours just looking at it like, okay, that goes there, that goes there. And that's, one of the things I really love about Arduino and like these kind of projects. You can just, something doesn't work, you can sit there and go, okay, this is that. But other than that, there weren't that many issues. I mean, as I made it, Arduino actually updated the software and now allowed you to graph the data you got on an actual graph instead of just seeing the data, which was really cool, which actually added to my project and made it a better one. So that was nice. I mean, other than it not working the first time, there was no major hiccups.
That's cool.
It's quite a fun, easy build.
How long did it take to make?
Well, this was when I was like really serious and like I really wanted to make a really nice, well-made video. I think it was my second or third video ever. So I was like, hey, I want to make it really well made. And so I went and like it took like 4 or 5 days to make, but that's because I had to find the best light in the house. And then I had to like take my whole workshop there with my soldering iron and all of that, move it there, and then like half an hour later the light would be gone and I have to move to the next place in the house. So that took a long time. But besides that, I mean, if you're building this for yourself really quick, you could probably do this in 15 minutes. Definitely.
Cool. Yeah, I know. Making video, editing video, all that stuff, especially with live recording, that's difficult. It's really hard.
But I think it's fun. It's one of those things you can kind of get behind and like see what you can do.
Yeah, it's a craft for sure. It can be something that's definitely enjoyable. So, are you thinking about iterating on this design? Or are you pretty much one and done on this thing, or do you have plans to like, I don't know, send a shock if somebody lies or anything like that?
That would actually be pretty cool. But this one that I made on that YouTube video was actually the second version. The first version didn't have LEDs. So the first version was just sends data back through the serial monitor of the Arduino, and you can see, what the data is of the skin. The second version I made, which is the one I made the YouTube video for, actually had 3 LEDs, which was the green, orange, and red one. So the reason I put that on is because I thought I might want to use this at my school or use this, out and about when I don't have a laptop. So the point of those were I had like a threshold value. So like if the data from the skin is at this point, then turn this LED on. If it's at this point, turn this one. So it's kind of like a way to see if someone's lying without having the graph there. You know
right,
what I mean?
Little visual indicator. Okay,
Exactly.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's not a huge indicator, but like if it suddenly goes from like red to green, you know that something's spiked quickly.
Right, but now you're at the point where you can just and I saw you made a container for it, an enclosure,
Yeah.
and so I see exactly what you're talking about. Now you can just walk around with it and stuff. Okay,
Yeah, exactly.
that's so cool.
I mean, I might want to like maybe as the future like go crazy because like now we've got some really good supplies in South Africa, so I can get all the parts pretty easily. So I might go and like add a Bluetooth module, add like a built-in lithium charger and a lithium battery inside of it, and make it like connect to my phone. But like right now, I'm pretty happy with where it's at.
Right.
It was just like a small side fun project.
That's cool. Hey, so I want to talk back that graph thing you mentioned with the Arduino software. How does that work? I'm pretty familiar with the serial monitor. So is the graph thing hard to use, or do you just like assign a value to it? How does that work?
So basically, the graphing, it's the exact same as the serial monitor, except you'll get your data back from the serial monitor. So let's say you get like back the value 100 and the value 110, 120, 130, and all the way down to like 400, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just displaying it in the serial monitor, the graphing software will actually, say, okay, at 10 seconds it was at 100, at 12 seconds it was at 120, and it will show you exactly how your data's changed over time.
That's cool. Can you change like how I'm trying to think like the X and Y values, so like it'll go up from on a scale. Can you change the scale? That's what I'm trying to ask. From like, or does it just default to a scale?
It defaults to the scale appropriate to your data. So,
Okay.
I mean, if your data is like from 1,000 to 10, it's going to have a scale from 1,000 to 10. But if your data is only from like 10 to 100, it's going to show you from 10 to 100, which is really nice. There's no need to like adjust different X and Y values
so
and
it
like
just
that.
kind of dynamically does it for you. Okay, that's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I love what Arduino's done. They've really added some nice features to Arduino that, that you wouldn't think you needed.
Yeah.
It used to be that, if you wanted to like graph something, you'd have to get like a processing sketch up and running, and you'd have to like integrate that into your Arduino. But now, Arduino's adding all these nice things to the software, which is really great.
Yeah, that's definitely a handy little tool. I'll have to mess with that. So what other, obviously you're doing cool stuff, and I'm just so impressed that, you talk to these people about programming, kind of showed your stuff off. And I mean, that's just really fantastic. What other stuff are you working on right now that's got you excited?
Well, right now I'm actually my last project was I made I salvaged a trackpad from an old laptop and I interfaced it with an Arduino to make it like a USB trackpad. And that was actually a setup for my next project, which where I'm building a Raspberry Pi laptop. So I've got this 8-inch screen, I've got three Arduinos inside of it, and I've got a Raspberry Pi 3 inside of it. And the whole idea is it's going to be a Raspberry Pi laptop with a keyboard and trackpad and everything. But on the side, there's going to be like a full Arduino interface where there's a built-in Arduino, so you can just plug in your components into the laptop and program them from there.
Oh, that's kind of cool. So, like when you say on the side of it, like on the, um, like next to the trackpad type thing, is that what you mean, or?
No, so like you know the Arduino Uno has those input pins all around the side.
Right.
I don't know what you'd call them. The name I forget the name now, but like
The headers,
the place
yeah,
where you
right,
jump
right.
in plug in the jumper wires, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's got two rows of those next to the trackpad, so you can just plug in your jumper cables or plug in your components and then test them with your Arduino from there. So there's no need to get like a separate Arduino, plug it into your laptop, and then test it.
That'll be cool. That is a fantastic.
I mean, it's not like a huge breakthrough, but it's gonna be kind of fun to have like an Arduino with me at all times, you know?
Right, just integrated right into it. Oh, that sounds
And what I
like
like about this as well, oh sorry.
Oh, no, please.
What I like about this as well is that I use the Arduino Micro, which has the HID capability. So if I wanted to, I could plug a button into these little pads I've left, and then program the Arduino to say, when I push button 1, make it click 100 times. So then I can like add these features to my laptop as I go if I wanted to.
That's cool. Like kind of customizing as you go with
Exactly.
That's neat. So that's cool. Yeah, and I watched some of that trackpad presentation. That was really neat. You talked about, salvaging old trackpads and how they're wired as a certain type, but you basically shift it over to USB by using the Arduino. That was pretty
Exactly.
neat.
So, yeah, I love how like old computers. I didn't realize until I still started making it because I was looking for a trackpad to put on my Raspberry Pi because I kind of want to make it a bit portable. And you just can't buy a USB trackpad that's the right size. So I figured, okay, let me try and find one. I had a bunch of old laptops lying around from like 7 or 8 years ago, and they have, the perfect size trackpad. And once you take them apart, you realize that they're just, devices that are inside the computer. They're not like some crazy, super complicated circuit. You can use them to your advantage if you just know what you're looking for.
Well, that's what really impressed me about the video, Dante, because I saw it, I was like, man, it just looks a little intimidating at first, lots of, traces on it and stuff like that, and you're ripping it out of a manufactured device, and but man, you nailed it, you tackled it, and kind of was it difficult to kind of find out what the outputs you needed to tap into type thing, or was it pretty straightforward?
Well, to be honest, I had a pretty common trackpad. I had a Synaptis trackpad, and I believe that they're one of the most popular manufacturers of trackpads, especially in older laptops. So I just put the part number into Google and I found it. But before that, I was freaking out, thinking, how am I going to get them? How am I going to know which things I want to plug into? What am I going to do? So my original idea was, to take an oscilloscope and just go to each pin and see what it does. But I was lucky enough to find a data sheet which tells me exactly what everything is. So that's the kind of thing, like another thing that I really like about the community, like the Raspberry Pi and Arduino community, is that they take things apart and then they kind of like they spend hours and hours trying to figure out what each pin does, and then they upload the information to the internet so someone else can skip that step and move on to the next thing and improve the next thing. Like for example, I don't know if you know like those old BlackBerry touchpads. They had that little like squirrely wheel in the middle of the phone you could use to like navigate the phone.
Right. Yeah.
Those things got really popular. Well, obviously after BlackBerry became less popular, people started salvaging the phones and salvaging parts. And a lot of people from the Raspberry Pi community and the Arduino community started salvaging these little touchpads and wiring them to their Arduinos and Raspberry Pis and using them as devices. So now all that information is out there. So if you wanted to, you could just go find the information and do it for yourself without having to go through the whole process of trying to figure out what each pin does. And then you have like, you break it or, that kind of stuff.
That's so cool. I couldn't agree more. There's such a plethora of good stuff out there to take advantage of to kind of get that insight into stuff. So you're not doing all that grunt work yourself. Other people have done it. And I guess with the idea being that, you can kind of pay it back, So.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. Like you can take someone else's information. Like it's almost like every time you're taking a step further. Like I found the data sheet for my trackpad because someone else did the grunt work and figured out how to do it. And then I found someone else's code on how to read data from PS2. Then I added my own code on how to write that to the USB library. Now I'm hoping someone else can take my code and add, more capabilities. Maybe add like a left click and a right click to it, or maybe use it in a different way, that kind of thing. So it's like a cycle. Someone starts off, someone takes the next thing, someone takes the next thing. Eventually we got this amazing project that the entire community can use.
I love the internet. I just love it.
Yeah, I love it too, man.
So what are you planning on doing? So you're graduating this year, do I have that right?
Yeah, final year of high school.
What are your plans for the future? You gonna take over the world or what? You seem poised to do that. So.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I'm really loving the YouTube thing. I just think it's really great. I've made a few projects. I made the lie detector, and I made a clock, and I made a Bluetooth door lock, and a few of them got featured on some pretty cool websites like Hackaday or Hackster or Instructables. And I just love seeing what people's responses to it. Some people email me and say I got one about I made a ultrasonic distance measurer, and some guy emailed me and said, hey, I did this for my school project, and he got an A for it. And I was like, and he edited it and showed me his new code and showed me what he did with it. And it's just really interesting to see what people could do with that. So I'm thinking for my next year, I'm either going to, see how I can further my studies with Arduino and like engineering and stuff. And I'm going to try and, keep posting on my YouTube channel and keep, creating these tutorials.
That's so cool. Well, we'll make sure to post to your YouTube channel, and it's what's the name of the channel again, if you don't mind just throwing it out there real quick?
It's Build It.
Build It. Okay. Well, hey, that's easy. Build It. All right. Cool. Well, hey, Dante, thank you so much for taking the time to talk today. That was just very cool to kind of hear this process about the lie detector and the stuff that you're up to. Thank you.
Yeah, it was amazing to be on here. Thank you so much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Dante's such a cool young guy. Sounds like he's got a very promising future, and we'll make sure to link to his YouTube channel so you can check out the stuff that he's working on. But I gotta tell you, isn't it so nice to hear about, the people working in his life to just kind of share information and stuff with his teachers at school, and just his curiosity is just so impressive. I love it. And it's also great to reflect on how good we have it with this information age, sharing this information and having it available to kind of help each other out and keep building this up. So very cool. Well, hey, if you enjoyed the show, I would love for you to subscribe, and if you could take the time to rate us, really helps other people know about the podcast, gets the word out. It'd be great. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful week, and whatever the rest of your day or night or whatever might be, I hope it goes fabulous. All right, take it easy. Bye.
This show is produced by Programming Electronics Academy, an online technology education company. We exist to help you create the technology you want in your life. If you are interested in learning more about Arduino, we welcome you to sign up for our free Arduino Crash Course, a 12-part video series with accompanying written lessons designed to teach the basics of programming Arduino. To register for the course, simply text your email address to 440-701-5311, or you can visit programmingelectronics.com and sign up there.